So we're at a weird timeline where Nexon of all developers actually listen to community feedback and adjust the game to it, which I actually had this video on a notepad like 2 weeks ago and I just never recorded it, and now I had to change multiple points of it because they keep on updating, which is good. And because of the fact that they do listen to feedback, that's why I decided it's a good time to just yap a little bit about it. So here are some changes to things that exist in the game that I would like to see seen. And this comes from my roughly like 300 hours of experience into the game so far. So I want to start off with the dungeon loop. Now, one thing about it is already being addressed, which is a lot of missions that have a lot of standing out and capture points. They are going to change that to elimination, which is great. However, wasn't my biggest issue with dungeons. So the issue I've always had with dungeons so far is that they just don't feel as rewarding to me. When it comes down to it, I'm trying to farm something specific, and there's something that drops from a void reactor and a dungeon. There's a high chance I'm going to be going after the void reactor because if I'm just targeting that one item, it's just more efficient to go after the void reactor. And it's not like with dungeons, I'm getting too much else on the way as well. And that's kind of my issue. So overall, I would like to see kind of buffs to the overall dungeon loop. Now, I think if you're just farming one specific thing, I think the void reactor should be the way to go. I'm not in any way saying we should nerf the void loop. I am, however, saying that maybe dungeons need to have more in other sense. I think that it could use more Kuiper, more gold, more EXP. The void interception bosses give us absolutely nothing in those regards. Like, maybe just give us a little more out of that, make it more worth doing. I think even having it like a special operation where you have a chance of a pretty good drop at the end, like a catalyst, like an activator or something like that, could be a thing. Probably more so for the dungeon, not the void, because you could really spam voids. Though I do think that the amorphous materials probably should get a higher drop rate on the longer dungeons. And also, if I were to say for more additional changes to the dungeon loop, is actually just make it more enjoyable. Again, yes, they are going to remove a lot of the capture points, but I think some of the mods and like that should be like double the elite spawns and more mobs, more density, stuff like that. Modifiers that actually change how the gameplay feels, changes how the dungeons is, and just overall makes it more enjoyable. Right now, when I look at mods, when a lot of people look at mods, they're just looking at the percentage. And overall, when it comes to like a minor stat change on the mods, do you even feel it? Because I don't. It just feels like the same dungeon. So I think that the modifiers on the dungeons, spice them up, make them more wacky, make it more fun. I very much want to do more of the dungeon loop, but right now I just don't feel like that's rewarding. I feel like I can just do things on reactors, and then if I really want to target farm XP, gold, Kuiper, if I really need to, I can just do a mission specifically for those. Though I think one change that needs to happen is for pre-made groups to let people pick different amorphous materials. It really sucks that everybody has to get one of the lead picks. Just let every player have their own menu in the game to pick what amorphous I have for every dungeon, and just let that save also. Because it sucks if we want different amorphous from the same dungeon, we can't play together. So initially the void reactor loop was actually one of the things I wanted to cover, but now they've actually, with season 1, modified it twice. The funny thing about that is that the aspect I wanted to change the most was the only thing they didn't change, which is the amorphous material drop rate. I thought the drop rate is really low. It's really annoying when you get like a ton of clears and you just don't get anything. And I just thought I'd bring it up because this is one of those things that has changed over the last couple weeks since I originally thought about this video. Next up, we have the Ultimate Descendants. I've talked about this before and I'm going to talk about it again. Right now, their current implementation sucks because it deters people from investing into the normal one. Like, anybody who has invested into Freyna up till now is going to get cut in a couple months here when they can get alt Freyna because all that stuff has gone to waste. So ultimately, I think that a normal Descendant should be able to upgrade to an Ultimate Descendant. The downside, however, would be that, there are those free catalyst spots with the Ultimate, so I do kind of lose out a little bit there. The other option would be that when you dismiss a Descendant, you would actually get all your investments back to catalyst to your activators. Probably a little diminishing return on it, like maybe they only get the blueprint pack, not the materials. But just something to feel like they can play these normal characters before the ult comes out. Because granted, yes, people playing Enzo right now, they're investing in him because he's doing really good, but it still sucks that these people are going to have to reinvest into Enzo when they have the ultimate. Which also, let ultimates just use the normal skins. Now, as of the patch notes of this morning, they have addressed how they want to tackle polarities, which is that you can put 2 different types of catalysts in the same slot. That allows you a little bit more diversity. It's not the greatest fix, not the one I would love to see, but it is a step up. And I'd say the main reason why this fix I don't really care about that much, and I feel like they could have done more, is the fact that we have the gun weapon enhancements and then we have the antibodies all have like 3 or 4 different types to it. It doesn't really make much sense, the fact that they are different types of slots, because all our HP ones are basically cerulean. They do a really good job of grouping up a lot of the current modules to a similar type to whatever it is. But when it comes to the antibodies and weapon enhancements, they just throw that out the window. I think to accompany this change, they should have unified all the antibodies and the weapon enhancements to be the same type. Just a little consistency. And before getting to the major final thing, I want to have kind of honorable mentions slash kind of a speed run. So here are some things that I don't really have too much to say about, but things that kind of annoy me. The first being that the enemy tracking on you. It doesn't make the game super hard or anything like that. It doesn't make things unclearable. It's just unfun to have things just persistently on you no matter what you do. Player collision in missions. No, go away. I'm also pretty sure that the resupply box does give you all ammo types. That kind of sucks. Also, shotguns and handguns, please buff them. No, I do think they mentioned something about dismantling coming in the future. I would love to have some sort of auto dismantle going on. And I think a big one that everybody agrees with, everybody talks about, is the reactors rolling what they shouldn't. They just should never be able to roll an element that isn't their type of reactor element, and it shouldn't be the attack type either. I don't really think there's ever going to be a situation where you want a tech mod that also has dimension on it. When people make these builds, they're one-tricking it around one type of skill. I am going to add one request, and that is photo mode, because I want to upgrade my thumbnail game. And then lastly, this one has actually kind of creeped up to me over time, because this is something I never really felt until recently, which is that the leveling up, the XP gain in this game is really bad. It's very unenjoyable, because you get really bad XP at a lot of places in the game. Like, you basically, if you want to start building a character, you have to do XP farm missions. And it's still not even like it's fast when you do it. It's still a bit of a slog, because you're going to be resetting a character probably 11 times. So I think that every time you reset a character or a weapon, that it actually gives you like an EXP boost, which is indeed a main reason why this is a bit of a slog. But I still think that they should do something to reduce the grind on XP, just let people set up things a lot faster. And I think it's because of how I played the game, and because the XP grind is actually why I do not feel an issue with Golden Kuiper. In my last video, I had a guy pretty upset that I didn't mention these boosters as a huge part of the thing. Like, I mentioned them at the end of the video, but not when I was talking about the cash shop. And it's actually just because I didn't really think about them that much. And the reason is because I never really needed them. So I focused on getting characters, unlocking characters, and leveling them up. And so since I was doing things like farm missions or special operations while leveling up all these characters, I was getting the XP I needed for them, but I didn't really want to invest gold or Kuiper into them because they're a bunch of normal characters. So ironically, the lack of XP has resulted in me not really seeing that issue with Golden Kuiper that other people do complain about. So for me, actually, if they did make leveling a little bit easier, I would actually feel more of an issue with Golden Kuiper as well. So it's a weird situation. And I think that's about it. Those are things in the game that exist currently that I think that could use some changes that would overall make the First Descendant a more enjoyable game. Nothing that I mentioned is really a deal breaker, sort of bad. So be it. Yeah, thanks for watching. Like, sub. I'll catch you next time. I don't know what else I can yap about with this game, to be honest.